Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Theater here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we celebrate our favorite movies. And this is a special one. This year, we've been celebrating 1980s canon action films with a retrospective on how important these movies have been to our fandom then and the nostalgic grasp they still have on us today. And we got a special one for you here, guys. On this one, we are discussing Dolph Lundgren's cult classic movie, Masters of the Universe. And this is Couch Potato Theater here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And if you're watching the YouTube channel, please click on that QR code. That's our link tree to all of our social media and all of the shows under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella. And as I mentioned, we are celebrating canon films, and we've done quite a bit here. We've done a total of 5, and right now we're doing our 6th final one here, and we saved the best one for last. Masters of the Universe, 1987. And just a little warning, we might have a little adult warning here. We might have some adult content and language, so be warned. And we will hope that you enjoy this special episode of Couch Potato Theater here on the Fandom Podcast Network. But now it is time to bring in my co-host and our special guest. And with me, as always, is the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. Please welcome Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's going on, buddy?
My name is not Kyle. My name is Kyle, Prince of the Fandom Podcast Network and keeper of the secrets of the Fandom Podcast Network. And one day I held aloft my magic microphone. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm working on that's a movie script I'm working on. Never mind. I am excited. It is the end of our canon films retrospective. This has been a lot of fun. We are doing one of the more entertaining canon films, but I'm even more excited because we have a very special guest to give us a lot of enlightenment on this. And I cannot wait to get into this. I can't wait to get back to Eternia. I can't wait for a little Skeletor, a little He-Man, there was another villain. The name escapes me, but I think I'm going to remember it here shortly.
Yeah.
We not only do we have that special guest, Kevin, do we have another person joining us who is big in size and stature and has taken many a good journey with us?
Yes, my co-host of our Highlander Bloody Kings podcast, martial arts himself, stuntman, actor extraordinaire. Please welcome Mr. Lee Fillingsis, a.k.a. Lee Man. What's up, dude?
I have the podcast!
That was my line. You stole it.
I've been holding on to that for a week, so yay.
Well, glad to have you here for this special, and we couldn't have done this one without you, and we appreciate you coming on here. So
glad to be here.
All right. Guys, now our next guest here, we've actually had him on before. We've had him on Bloody Kings before, and we had him for our Couch Potato Theater Roadhouse special edition here. Of course, he is one of the stars of that one as well. And with us is Blade from the movie that we are talking about now. That is Masters of the Universe, Mr. Anthony DeLongis. Anthony, welcome to the party. How are you?
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good to have you, sir. Now, you played Blade, and we're going to get into a lot of that here, and it's good to have you. I know you've been a busy man lately, going to some conventions as well. Quickly, I wanted to ask you, you recently went to one in Southern California. What kind of feedback are you still getting from fans about Masters of the Universe?
Actually, some wonderful feedback. I've been lucky enough to work on 13 countries on 5 continents, and it surprises me how many places I've gone that people tell me, how much they enjoyed the movie when they saw it, usually as kids, and then, the siblings and, their own kids and this and that. And it's had quite a lifespan since 1987. And, it's a good story. It has a good message. And but it surprises me just how iconic it's become for so many people all over the world. And that, of course, brings me and the rest of the cast great pleasure because, you want to tell a good story and you want to entertain people and, to have them treasure those memories, it means the world to us.
Well, you play Blade, one of the coolest villains in cinematic history here. We'll get more into that, but you also brought something with you. You have been immortalized as a toy. You got an action figure there with you, don't you?
Yeah, I'm an action figure. I am not a doll. Well, here's a little treat. This is, let me see if I can, there's the camera. All right, this is the original, which I wasn't terribly impressed with because it's the same. Are you guys still there? There we go.
Yeah, it's still here. Sorry,
Stick
just
my
froze up a
head,
little bit.
you know, there we go. Camera,
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah.
How's it like to be a toy? Excuse me, an action figure.
Well, and then about 10 years ago, I think, John Atkins had got a hold of me and said they were trying to do a classic line. And, you know, would I put together a little something? So I put together a quick video link saying, you know, this is Blade. I'm in disguise, you know, up at top of the mountain in Rancho Dalo, you know, hiding out as a sword master. And, you know, please don't let that thing be my legacy. And so we got the classic design, which
That's
was
great.
much
I
cooler.
love that.
Still doesn't
Yeah.
quite look like me, but it does look like the character. And then 2 years ago, I think it was, they said, would you be interested in another, you know, and they actually gave me a little money. You mean a little money, but, and they only did one run, which surprised me because there's a lot of people who really want this, but this is, I
Look
got
at that.
to, there we go. I got to be part of the design. You know, I sent the pictures and I worked with the artists, and there's some real cool stuff on the back. And the only thing is, I guess I'm not supposed to take this out of the package or it loses value.
No, you do not.
I play with it, you know.
Yeah. Well, one of
Anyway,
the
that's the evolution of the Blade figure. Go ahead.
Well, one of the cool things about your character, one of the weapons they use is something that you're very
I'm having a
familiar
little
with.
trouble hearing you.
Sorry, hold about that. Yeah, there's a little bit of lag here. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. One of the cool things about your character Blade is one of the weapons that they use, and a weapon that you're very familiar with is that you are an instructor of the bullwhip, or as I learned it, the supersonic flexible blade. And I've taken classes with you, and you have famously taught Michelle Pfeiffer on how to use the whip on, of course, the set of Batman Returns. You also returned for you went to the fourth Indiana Jones film and helped out Mr. Harrison Ford to be reintroduced to that weapon. And of course, you used a whip in this one as well. Tell us a little bit about the classes that you teach in Rancho and Dalo, including the whip course that you do.
Well, I've been a student of the bladed arts for 53 years and counting, really my entire career. My first great teacher was Maestro Ralph Faulkner, who was a two-time Olympian and sword master of the stars back in the golden age of, you know, he did The Prisoner of Zenda. He did, most people would know him for The Court Jester. But just tremendous, generous teacher. And then I trained with, then I went to Taekwondo and got to a red belt level. But went, you know, I'm about as good a kicker as I'm going to be, and I'm not going to get any younger. And I heard about Dan Inosanto, Guru Dan Inosanto. So I trained with Guru Dan for a dozen years. He's actually just turned 90. Maestro Faulkner was 95 and still teaching 3 days a week. So this is the bar I set myself. But so I trained with him, and from the sword work I learned from Maestro Faulkner, and then the footwork that I learned, which I then incorporated in Duende, and also when they flew me to Shanghai to partner Jet Li and Fearless, I was using, you know, this destreza style of, there's 8 angles of attack in all bladed weapons. There's also 8 angles of footwork plus circle, and that's all there is. So if I'm not performing the role myself, I'm often helping somebody else on the still, as you said, or Harrison, or a long list of other people. I have to impart information in a minimum of time. So I try to give them an overview and a structure that allows me to put pretty much anything in their hand, and they can wield it with confidence and built-in layers of safety. But it is a big picture thing. You know, I tell my students, one lifetime isn't enough to learn everything about any art, but the more arts you study, the more you start to recognize Bruce Lee called them the ribbons of truth, but the structures that connect the arts. And that is why I come from a sword background. So to me, the whip is a supersonic flexible blade. The tip of the whip goes 768 miles per hour, which is very, very powerful. I am actually a creator of my own system. one of the things I'm proudest of. Most people throw the tip and yank the whip to increase. It goes over 700 miles an hour. You don't have to work that hard. And I just looked at it and went, why are you working so hard? And I was much more interested in precision and accuracy and minimal effort and minimal movement and maximum return, because that's the martial arts ideal: minimal effort, maximum return. So I created my DeLongis rolling loop system, which basically my system rolls and stabs. Most people yank and slash. And it allows me to work in very confined spaces. It allows me to keep my partners safe. If I'm teaching somebody else, they can. Michelle, her first day of work, she was wrapping Christopher Walken around the neck with a whip. No doubles with the whip. I was very proud of Michelle.
I remember you mentioning that when we met you at one of the Highlander conventions in Los Angeles, and you're having to do this indoors.
Mm-hmm.
And how you were talking about the control of it and how you're able to do it. And I just wanted to mention real quick that and Lee, you're going to be coming up here in a second, but I had a chance to do some training with you. It was one of the highlights of my life. I also bought one of your whip DVDs, training DVDs as well. Mm-hmm. And of course, I got to visit your Rancho Indalo that you speak of, and had a wonderful time. Interviewed you there as well.
That view doesn't suck, does it?
No, it does not. It is absolutely gorgeous. But
that is what that's why we named our ranch. That is what it looks like in southern Spain, our western view. It's one of my favorite views, and that's one of our major training areas. That when I have people come and train with me from all over the world, and I love teaching because it keeps me performance sharp. And as I'm finding ways to teach you what I know, you teach me how to teach you. So I keep getting a new perspective on material that I've, been, I often tell people, I've been teaching this 40 years. I've never taught it this way before, because this is how I'm, getting through to you. So that makes it rewarding for, everybody. Right. That's a good picture.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And now, Lee, I want to give you the table here, because you got to host when we had an online Highlander convention. Tell people about what you got to do here when you hosted a certain panel for a certain television show.
Well, I got to have the ultimate nerd out moment, because I watched this episode when I was a teenager, and got to interview everybody that kind of had a huge part in it.
What episode are we referring to, and what show?
We were referring to Duende.
Duende.
Yeah, the probably the most famous and best sword fight in the entire series. I thought it was a pretty incredible work that got done. And I got to sit there with a few heroes, Mr. DeLongis, yourself, Brian McCash, and Adrian Paul, having been a martial artist and nerd, and becoming a stuntman. The work that you guys did when I was a kid influenced who I became as an actor and performer as an adult. And I was trying not to just do the old Chris Farley, you remember when you did this? That was awesome. But it was a pretty cool time. I did want to go back just for the listeners. Anthony talked about a movie called Fearless that he did with Jet Li. I think that's probably one of the best East meets West.
You guys okay? I'm having trouble with the sound.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear us now? There's a little bit of a lag there. Anthony,
sounds like you're underwater, and it sounds like you're under the lid of a piano.
If you want, you can leave the room and then come back. How's it now? There's a little bit of a lag there. Still doing all right?
It's fine.
Okay, good. If you do have any more longer issues, you can leave the room and then just come back in on the link, and that might help clear it up a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
I think it might be something with on Lee's end too. Okay. If maybe his mic isn't picking up quite.
Oh, is it? Okay.
You might be a little too far from it. So
yeah, try to be a little bit closer to the computer there. But Lee was talking about the Highlander famous episode Duende. Which was famous for its sword fight that you pretty much helped choreograph and create for that, right, Anthony?
Yes, it was a wonderful collaboration. I had been in, I guessed it on season 3 in what ended up being called Blackmail. Oh, I had such a good time, and I became friends with David and Gillian Horvath, and I said, "How can I get back on the series?" And they went, "Oh, well, you were so distinctive," and I went, "I'm an actor; I can be different." He says, "Well, if you come up with a backstory we haven't done." Well, they were just heading into their 5th season, which means almost 100 hours of television, which is wonderful back in the days of 22 episodes a season, and so I came in with like 5 ideas, and they went, "Oh yeah, we did that in season 2. It's kind of like season 4. Oh yeah, we already did that in season 1." And I came up with the idea of the debt that could never be repaid, and that they kind of got excited about, which was neat. And then I presented the Destresa style to Robert Rodriguez, because he was supposed to direct Zorro. And unfortunately, 3 days later, he left the project, and Martin Campbell brought in Bob Anderson. And what are you going to do? But I got a call 2 weeks later where they said, "You want to go to Paris and do this episode that was called The Mysterious Circle? We've retitled Duende." And I said, "Yes, I do." And basically flew in. The first fight, Braun and I had put together the night before. We got on set, and the only reason we had any rehearsal at all was because the camera truck broke down. So we had half an hour to rehearse that one. The second fight, which was in the school, we basically, we made it up on the spot. And Braun had said, "This is a very slippery floor." Oh, by the way, this was the first time this style of fighting had ever been seen on screen, which one of the things, I was very pleased and proud about. And he said, "Well, please be sure and, put some sand on this so that when we get out there, everybody will have a better grip." Well, we got out there and it was pissing down rain. And we said, "You were going to treat the floor." He says, "Yeah, but it's raining." He says, "Yeah, we know." And that, so basically it was like fighting on an ice rink. And there's some behind the scenes stuff where you'll see me, because in my character, I wanted to have, the erect, defiant posture of the matador, but the very quick and powerful, footwork of a flamenco dancer with rotation to give me power. So it was this blend of things. But there's one point where my feet go right out from underneath me. I'm actually horizontal.
I've seen that.
Disappear from the frame, and water shoots up. It's very, very funny, haha, in retrospect. But at one point, Adrian and I go into a kick line of Singing in the Rain, because you can't really see it on film. We started filming and it was so gray. They had chosen the location because the Eiffel Tower was in the background. Honest, you can't see it because about 100 yards of view because of the atmospherics in the rain. So we ended up shooting for about an hour, and it was really monochromatic. And they decided, okay, we'll wait until it's dark and then we'll pump a bunch of light through it. And that's how it ended up being what it is. But that fight, the most complex fight, we had finished the night before, and we had one scene left to shoot. And Adrian says, "I haven't seen the fight yet. Show it to me." So we showed it to him. We walked through it. And then I had a scene with the girl in the back of the car, and we're going, "All right, we'll rehearse it on set the next day." Well, the next day it's pissing down rain. They have no cover set. There's no place for us to be. So we just go out, and we're essentially rehearsing on camera. So it was because neither one of us knew the fight. It wasn't memorized. We're really responding to each other, which the only other time I've had, a partner, of Adrian's ability is on Fearless. They flew me to Shanghai for Yan Wu Ping, and I was fighting Jet Li, and there we literally made it up on the spot. I shook hands. We got up the crew, so the fight team threw something together. When Jet and Wu Ping were happy, we got up, we walked it once or twice, and then shot it. The first frames we shot 3 times. After that, never more than twice. And it was a matter of neither one of us knew the choreography, but between the two of us, there's probably 70 years worth of sword training. So he moved, I'd adjust. I moved, he'd adjust. Right. And it's the most organic fight I've ever had. But that's why I never stopped training.
Well, I do want to let people know, if you have not seen the Highlander TV series, at least check out Duwende. Anthony does a great job with the character backstory, and it was also a growing moment for Adrian Paul's character of Duncan as well. It's absolutely fantastic, and that's the scene you were talking about, how you poured Coke on the ground to have it sticky. So it was
school, yes.
Yeah, so it wasn't slippery. Yeah, that's a
didn't work outdoors though.
Well, let's get into the podcast here regarding what we're talking about here, and this, of course, is 1987's Masters of the Universe, and it's part of the Canon Film Theater here, and we, of course, been discussing it all year, and we saved the best for last here on. So let's get into a little bit about Masters of the Universe here. We pretty much know about the IMDb plot description here, but I want to kind of ask. Let me ask you first, Lee. Is where did you first see it and how? Because I always kind of like to know where it came up to us. Was it in the theater or was it on video? How'd you see it?
I saw it at the Valley West Cinema. It was a 3-plex in Des Moines, Iowa, on my 11th birthday.
Wow.
That was my birthday movie. Saw it with my buddy Gary and my dad.
That's awesome.
My dad says hi. He's really kind of touched that we're doing this. He remembers seeing this with me. It's the kind of movie you dragged your dad to back then, but he very much remembers it. So he thinks this is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's a priceless memory. That's wonderful.
Kyle, what about you? Where did you first see Masters of the Universe?
Well, to add into it, I saw it at the Goldstream Theater in Fairbanks, Alaska, when it came out. I was a huge He-Man fan. Luckily, I got my mom to drop me and a few friends off at the theater because, when you're a kid, they'll drop you off at the theater. It's 40 below outside. Nobody's running outside. A
little different than California, that's for sure.
And I just remember, I was a He-Man fan growing up. I had several of the toys and was so ready for this film to come out. And I remember seeing it and going, well, it wasn't quite what I expected, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in this. And there's a certain bad guy who really stood out, I'm just going to say. And his name wasn't Skeletor.
One of the things played by Wesley Snipes? Or?
Yeah. Voleur, thief. One of the things I was really pleased about, because I didn't really know very much about, the Eternian universe and the He-Man universe. And so I actually got to create a character that didn't exist in the Motuverse, if you will. And that was very, very cool.
I wanted to ask you about that, actually, Anthony. It's one of the questions I had for you. How much of a part did you have in that creation of that character, Blade? Because that was definitely an original villain for the film.
Well, basically, there was what was in the script, and then I got almost no direction from Gary because he apparently liked what I was doing. And I'd learned by that point in my career, if the director wants something from you, he will let you know. Otherwise, if he's leaving you alone, full speed ahead, keep doing what you're doing. Little things. You mentioned the whip earlier. They told me they were going to have me do this plasma whip thing, and and then they handed me a piece of wood that was about 12 inches long, and said, "Do this, and then the animators will, fill that in." There wasn't a lot of technology back then, but I said to them, "I happen to know a little something about the whip. Will you film me, and then give that to the animators because it will give them a better idea?" Also, I throw the whip with my whole body. I want to, So basically, they filmed me and then they animated that. And I think it still works pretty darn well.
Yeah, it does stand up very well to this day. And I was that you answer my other question, because I was curious if they just did the digitizing in or if they actually filmed you and then just put the effect in over it, because
they got creative with it, but they did take the fluidity of my rolling loop style and the fact that it was rolling and you'd see it come out. And there was a couple little, cursives that they put in, right. But the essence of a whip and how a whip worked was in the animation. And I think that was a very effective collaboration, that I could give them stuff that would inspire them, but also it wasn't a lot of nonsense, where I was waving my hand around and then, so the two connected very well together.
That's very cool. I wasn't as lucky to see it in the theater. Living here in Santa Barbara, they don't always show some of the films, or they come in and they're gone. So I had to wait for good old VHS, and I got a picture of the VHS there, similar to the one I may have rented at my local video store, because I was very curious about this film, and I knew who Dolph Lundgren was, and I of course knew about He-Man and the toys and everything. So, and then over on the right, if you're watching the video, that's the newest 4K release there. So they've definitely have a great new release for this film.
I have a nice behind the scenes interview in it too.
Oh, really?
I haven't got my copy of it yet, but yeah, no, they contacted me, and I was very happy to do a behind the scenes and share some stories and stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing that myself.
Well, that's another reason to have it, because this Blu-ray version I have behind me over here does not have hardly any special features on it, just a commentary by the director. So that's good to know.
Quick little thing. My first film was Circle of Iron, with David Carradine, and there's a huge backstory to that with between Bruce Lee and but I was in Israel in like 77, 78 maybe, and that was my first film, and they just did a 4K release of that, and I have a nice behind the scenes interview in that too.
Very cool. I just have the DVD, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that, because I love myself some physical media. So that's good to know. Now, we wanted to get into the main movie discussion here, and it should be noted. I wanted to ask you, Anthony, because when it comes to Canon Films, we want to kind of know, what did you know about Canon Films going into this? Because Kyle and I have discussed our feelings about Canon Films on our previous podcast, and we'll get Lee, we'll get your thoughts on it. But did you know that Canon Films was producing this, and what was your experience with that, if any?
Very little, and not really. I was certainly aware of all of the films that you had talked about, that you guys have shared earlier, and they were fun, and they were, one of the things I like about 80s action movies is it's real action in real time. There's very little special effects, and I'm a big believer in, it's like with Michelle, I got to train her for 5 weeks, and then she wanted to keep training, and so
that was for Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. So as Catwoman, and that's all her. She has no doubles with the whip. Kathy Long, who was 5-time world kickboxing champion, came in and did some inserts in her fight scenes, and Chris Peters, did her high fall from the building into the kitty litter truck, and the back fall out of the window and stuff like that. But Michelle did as much as she always did, as much as she could, and with the whip, that's all her. And so I was just very, very proud of how good she got. But we would literally walk in, look at adversity, turn it into opportunity, and we could create things on the set. The whole thing of the Ice Princess wasn't in the script. We walked in, I saw the rehearsal. I said to her, a chair in one hand and a whip in the other says lion tamer the world over, no matter what language you speak. And she says, Tim, Anthony has this idea. Thanks. But yeah, so basically she drops in on her whip, she cuts the girl free, dumps her out of the chair, throws the chair, cracks the whip, grabs the girl around the waist, pulls her in for a true shot, says girl talk. And we rehearsed it once for camera and shot it twice, and we were done. That's fantastic. What you can do when you train somebody.
That's fantastic. She had a natural ability. Lee, what is your experience with Canon Films in the 80s? What kind of nostalgic grasp, if any, does it have for you?
Just constant. You kind of see this logo show up, and you know that it's going to be crappy and awesome at the same time. Yeah. You really can't miss. Nobody's going to get an Oscar for anything, but you can definitely eat popcorn to it. You can talk to your buddies about it 30 years later, 40 years now, I guess. But these are always, if you grew up with basic cable, you had TBS, USA, WGN, TNT. If you flipped through for about 10 minutes, you'd find at least one Canon film at any time of day. And it was always kind of fun.
Yeah. Kyle and I have expressed our thoughts on the previous episodes that we've done here, and it's one of those things where, like, when you put in a video cassette or you're watching it on HBO and you see that canon symbol come together, you're like, yes. There's just a certain logos that bring excitement and, you know, tickle that nostalgia, and canon is definitely one of those because of the films. They were just fun. They were fun, and they were so iconic in the 80s. And Masters of the Universe, of course, is one of those. And the famous film producers, of course, were Menahem, Golan, and Yoram Globus. I have a picture of them there, and they have very interesting history. I suggest you look it up. There's also some great documentaries called Electric Boogaloo, talking about the canon 80s films. And there's also a great DVD here called Bombs, Babes, and Blockbusters of Canon Films. And it includes Masters of the Universe. And if you want to go deep into the brothers there, or the brothers in film, the Go-Go Boys is also another great documentary to check out there, because it goes into their childhood and how they came out wanting to, be part of films and make them and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Whose idea was it to shave the hair and mustache for Blade?
I don't think I had a mustache at the time. But basically they said, we can shave your head or we can try to do a skull cap, but the technology wasn't great. Like it wasn't, like Dune, where the actor, he's actually, I found out that was a skull cap. I thought he'd shaved his head.
Yeah, they've gotten really good lately.
But yeah, it was V. Neal and Greg Canham, who were terrific. But basically they said, I just said shave my head, because I could be in makeup for 20 minutes or I could be in makeup for 2 hours. When I did Maj Kulla on Star Trek Voyager, I did like 5 guest stars on that. I was 3.5 hours in makeup and an hour out every time.
Oh,
and
geez.
that was, that's rugged. So it's just much easier. Now, that being said, they also put me in surgical rubber, and then my chain mail were 10 6-foot lengths of pipe cut into 1/4-inch pieces. So I'm wearing about 50 feet of pipe. They never would tell me how much it weighed. And then over that, they put, the pads and the things. And as soon as I saw that, I went, well, I won't be doing any shoulder rolls, will I, with this stuff? But I
had a question about your headpiece, because obviously one of the iconic looks of your character in this movie is you have an eye patch over your left eye, and you got this kind of cool chin guard, and they come up. I was looking closely because I can see it on HD. It looks like there's some little tiny holes in your eye patch. Did that allow you to see through that?
That I insisted. I said, look, I think the world of Dolph and his skills, but I'm going to be fighting him, first as Blade, and then I ended up doubling Frank Langella too. But, I'm going to be fighting Buick Slayer. And if you take away one of my eyes, I'm not going to have any depth perception. I said, please make little pinholes in this, first off, so that I can, my eye can sweat through it. But mostly I was able to see through the pinholes, and it gave me depth perception. But that was my request.
Very, very cool. Well, we've got a little bit of trivia, and we got a couple on you, Anthony. Kyle, you want to start us off with the first bit of trivia here?
Yeah, Frank Langella went on record in an interview stating that playing Skeletor was one of his favorite roles. His young son was a huge fan and was running around the house shouting, "By the power of Grayskull," so he took the role for him. He wrote some of his own lines like, "Tell me about the loneliness of good, He-Man. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil?"
I didn't know this. Skeletor's troops are robots because Mattel, which owned and produced Masters of the Universe toy line, mandated early in production that He-Man couldn't kill anyone on screen. So I guess that's when the stuntmen are getting hit by lasers and stuff. It looks like they might be a machine underneath that, but I never knew that. I just assumed that they were normal soldiers. Was that something you learned on set at all, Anthony?
We kind of learned that. I didn't really have to deal with that. But yeah, Meg Foster used to call them the night bugs. And I think it was, I think it's why we got a lot of guff, because that was when Star Wars first came out, and so everybody always looks for something, nasty that they can say about something else. And, it's a ripoff of Star Wars. Okay, well, no, it wasn't. But yes, I had heard that he wasn't supposed to kill anybody to start with. But by the end, I guess both Mattel, and Golan Globus were saying, kill anybody you want. we need more stuff here.
That's cool.
There was a lot of stuff I had no idea about until years later. I got to talk to Gary. It was at a couple of conventions, actually. We had one where after the show, I'd mentioned, you might buy us a drink and we'll tell you stories. So the promoters had us back, and Meg and Gary and I and Mary and a couple other folks were back there, and we were telling stories. And Gary started talking about, they were trying to close us down. There was one thing where the crew hadn't been paid, and Gary convinced them to work through the day and assured them the producer would get the money by the end of the day, and he did. And then at the end, there was just this thing, I have the power, and, a little coming together of the power staff and the sword. And Golan and Globus, they were ready to wrap it up. And Gary talked them into another half day of filming. And he got a smoke machine, and he got a light, with a color wheel that he put on us. And that's how we shot, in a couple of hours, that sword fight and between Skeletor and and He-Man. The other thing was and they said the coordinator, because Walter Scott, I worked with him on a couple things, but most notably Secondhand Lions, which I loved, and
great movie.
Choreographed all the flashback sword scenes, and wonderful movie. But he said you're gonna double Frank, and I went okay. And they put me in his boots, which didn't fit, and they were super slick. I always make a wardrobe put rubber on the bottoms of whatever my footwear is, to have a grip. So I'm not doing, Highlander again. And then I said, so is this before he becomes God Skeletor or after? Oh no, it's before. So good. So I had a power staff, and I put together a pretty nice little fight that involved some manipulation of the staff. And then the day we were going to shoot it, they went, "Oh no, it's after the transformation." And as far as I was concerned, I'm wearing a combination of a moose elk rack and the New York skyline. And it's just like, well, I won't be doing any of those moves that we had initially choreographed. And it was also in his mask. If you were to take and do this, that was what I could see. I could see
hand over the nose. Gotcha. Yeah.
I remember this because that was that crazy gold armor that he had at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And Anthony, I've heard several stories of you having to step in for Frank for that fight scene, because Frank tried to be a trooper, but there's only so much he could do. And I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like trying to fight in that armor.
I later heard he wanted to do a lot. Mine was mostly a matter of I was in his wardrobe that didn't fit. And the other thing with his slippery boots, see with this, I couldn't see where my feet were going. And there was a lot of stairs and also drop offs into God knows where, Blade ended up when, I got a rifle butt to the face. But the, what was I going to say? So I couldn't, and they were using smoke, which left a nice film on the whole surface of. So once again, we're back on an ice rink and not able to see where the hell I'm going.
Slippery ground.
And here comes Dolph with the He-Man sword. And I was just very happy. It was unwieldy. It had terrible balance. I called it Buick Slayer. But, I had been able to teach, there's the other story. Dolph, Lauren Janes, who used to double Steve McQueen, he was supposed to do the sword play, and he said, "You know more about this than I do. You train it." And I said, "Great." So I trained Dolph for a month, and then I didn't see him for a month. And I kept asking Walter Scott, I said, when can I see the set, so I can give you some ideas? We're going to be down there. We'll have lots of time. And we were down there for a month. But what do you think was the first thing we shot on the night we got down into Whittier?
The big fight scene.
Yeah, so I had about an hour with Dolph. I said, "You remember the thing I taught you a month?"
That sounds like the story of your life. I got an hour.
Pretty much. Unfortunately, Dolph, is a tremendous athlete, and I taught him how to balance the sword because, again, it was unwieldy. It's one of my things as a teacher. Gravity can become an ally. So if you have structure, you can get gravity to actually be helpful instead of always being a pain in the ass like it usually is. So those are some of the so it was quite the adventure, but there was so much going on behind the scenes we had no idea of. Gary did a great job of keeping all that hidden from us, so we didn't worry about it. We could focus on making a movie.
I'm curious because you talked about it training Michelle. What was Dolph like to train? Because he seems like he's such an interesting person because he's so intelligent. He like you said, he's so athletic, and you're in peak Dolph Lundgren athleticism at that point.
Yeah, he was terrific to train. We got along really well. He realized right away that I was there to help him look great. One of the things he used to complain a little bit about, because he looked fantastic because he was in bodybuilder shred mode. Well, that's what bodybuilders do like about 3 days before a competition. They stop drinking water, and stuff like this. Well, Dolph had to do that for 6 months.
Oh,
so that was really rugged. And I remember early on when I did see him to train, he'd go, I do all this stuff and the work and this and that. And I have a glass of wine and it's like, nothing happened. So, I don't think he gets enough credit. You don't look like that without a whole lot of work and a lot of sacrifice. So,
one of the other bits of trivia you've already touched on, we had one about you training Dolph and then also doubling for Frank. But one of the other ones, and you kind of touched on a little bit, but I want you to go into a little bit more. It says here in an interview with Master of the Universe movie website, Anthony, you said that your blade suit was like maybe over 50 pounds, that when you took off your boots at the end of the filming, sweat would pour out of them.
I expected a trout to come out. Basically, I would put the suit on. I would go through, the whole day. Come lunchtime, I would kind of peel half of it off, but not all of it, just because it was much of a pain to get it into. Actually, it was lined, so that is basically like wearing a wetsuit because it was surgical rubber. I actually had the wardrobe assistant Julie Weiss put the wardrobe together.
Wardrobe was fantastic.
And like I told you, there wasn't a lot of chain mail around in those days. So they were literally, I was wearing 1/4-inch pieces of pipe. And it was a whole chainmail overlay that then it's not just things out from the bottom of the shoulder pads. It was, they put the chainmail on. They never told me how much it actually weighed. So, yeah. So by the end of the day, I would take and turn a boot over and I was getting at least a pint of water out of each boot. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I wanted to touch on a couple. I wanted to touch on a couple of our favorite scenes, maybe. And Lee, I want to start with you. And I'm going to change up the question for you, Anthony, in a moment about what were a couple of your favorite scenes to be in. But Lee, I wanted you to tell me what is a couple of your favorite scenes in Master of the Universe.
I gotta love when Lubick goes crazy with the shotgun in Eternia. I mean, that's just, come on, that's great.
You're getting kind of Back to the Future vibes, when James Tolkan was doing a shotgun, I think in episode 2.
Yeah, I mean, really, gotta say it, the sword fight that you guys had was definitely peak 80s, 11-year-old boy, just awesomeness. Had to love that. But really, I like them figuring out the music stuff.
Yeah.
As weird as it is, in a He-Man movie, I'm like, okay, this is an interesting way to go about it. So,
Kyle, do you have a couple favorite scenes?
It's two of the bigger battles. It's a big battle scene on Earth right before when they go to Eternia after they've been on Earth for a while and they get captured, and just everything in Grayskull with Skeletor, and that final battle scene is absolutely incredible. It's just the part of the problem for trying to do this movie at the time they tried to do it is He-Man is one of the most fantastical, but one of the most science fiction based entities out there. It's such a mix, and the tech, like Anthony said, the technology wasn't there to pull off everything that they could do, and I thought they ended up doing a pretty phenomenal job under the circumstances. Of course, that same lack of technology is why we ended up with Wildor instead of Orko, but that's a whole other story with this movie. But I mean, the fight scenes were so well done. And Anthony, I remember this even in the ad. You delivered one of the biggest lines that was even in the ad for the movie when you as Blade get ready to fight He-Man. And he's like, I've waited an eternity for this.
Yeah, waited a long time for this.
Yeah, we had a long time for this. And I remember that standing out. And just, I remember seeing the trailers and seeing, oh, this is the guy I want to see He-Man fight. Forget Skeletor. I want to see him fight Blade because
I was disappointed
and just everything with it.
Yeah, that we weren't able to make it longer. I didn't hear until, well, not too long ago, actually, that Frank had apparently wanted to do a big fight scene, but by that point, there just wasn't any time or money or to do a rehearsal. So that's why, once again, we had to, kind of create something from nothing in the one thing you never have enough, it's time. Particularly in television, but also in film. And it was a lot had to do with, and a lot on this film. It's like I said, we got down there. I had an hour to choreograph Dolph into a fight, which wasn't as long as a fight as I would have liked, but it was fun. And then, I became Pons Mars is the actor's name who did Sorod. And I was his stunt pad because, Dolph picked him up and threw him into me. And I went, oh, great. But yeah, but I gather Frank he'd been working out. He was, he looked good. He wanted to have, not unlike Jared Leto's suit, he wanted to look buff and do this and that. And so there are things that, I hadn't found out until after the fact. I would love to have choreographed something longer for them. But again, Gary talked us into having an extra, half day with, security lights and smoke and put something together. So there was at least, a final confrontation and something satisfying, in an encounter with Blade.
One of the scenes that I really liked was I'm guessing it was the downtown scene where Skeletor is cruising his like cool hoverboat and he actually passes like a Hallmark store, which I thought was kind of funny. But I believe what was that downtown? Where did they film that?
Whittier. We were in
Whittier. That's right, Whittier in LA because I've actually been through there, but not during nighttime. But I really enjoyed that area. But I wanted to ask you, was there a particular scene in this film that you really enjoyed that still stands out to you?
Yes. Well, you made me think about that. But one thing real quick, we were in Whittier for 6 weeks. My only regret was, the big scene that, I really wanted to do something with, happened in the first hour of the first night that we were there. It was like, but I went down there and it was very, very foggy. And they had put in essentially like you would do for a concert, so they had these cranes and the things and the light, and between the fog and the lights, it looked like the mothership. You couldn't see the scaffolding. So that was, and I'm going, well, I bet this is freaking out, the citizens of Whittier, but I like the gymnasium scene. That was one of, our early scenes, and the whole thing with the swords and that she's mine. And that's all practical stuff that we did. And then shooting into the door, and they had this is why you always have a fire department on set. They had, that there was going to be a fire, and they said, know where your exit is. And, if things get out of control, we'll tell everybody, just get the hell out of the gym. Well, we're in a real high school gym. And basically when they set the fire off, it went straight up to the ceiling and the smoke came straight down. And within less than 30 seconds, nobody could see anything. So we got out and the fire department came in and put out the fire. But up till then, I thought the scene was going pretty darn well. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun chasing her. And
That's fantastic.
Can I just interject two things?
Yeah, what's up, Lee?
First, there's one that I forgot. It's not exactly a favorite scene. It's actually a favorite comment on the director's commentary. There's a scene in the alley where the light was not quite right, and somebody went and bought a pizza sign to get like some evil mood lighting to put up there. And they're talking about it, and to me, it's like having worked on a whole bunch of movies that, varying levels of quality, it shows that everyone's working. Everyone's trying to make the good product. I thought that was great. Second, my favorite thing to do with this movie is to watch it in Spanish. It is amazing in Spanish. And the guy that got to do Dolph Lundgren's voice is a Spanish impression of Dolph Lundgren, the likes of which the world does not deserve. It is amazing.
That's fantastic.
Wow,
I got to try that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to the cast. I want to give a quick shout out to the cast and crew here. Of course, we have the director, Gary Goddard here. And then the rest of the cast, I'm going to go ahead and just name them here because I want to get your opinion on some of the cast members here, Anthony. Of course, we have Dolph as He-Man, Frank as Skeletor, Meg Foster as Evil Lynn, Billy Barty as Gwildor, Courteney Cox as Julie, and we have Robert Duncan McNeill plays Kevin, Jon Cypher as Man-at-Arms, Chelsea Field is Tila, James Tolkan is Lubick, Christina Pickles is a sorcerer. We got Tony Carroll as Beastman, Pons Mar as Sorod, and of course we have you, Anthony, as Blade. I want to get your thoughts on the cast that you worked with on set there, Anthony. Was there a particular cast member maybe you bonded with or anything like that? Anything that stood out with you that you enjoyed hanging out with?
I enjoyed hanging out with Meg. Meg was terrific. She did such a wonderful job in this. I saw the new film, and I was kind of going, well, that's a very different take on Evil Lynn. But I loved Meg's work in this. And,
Meg was truly evil in this movie. I thought she was one of my highlights in this film.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bob Towers as Karg. Bob was one of the sorcerers. I took over, and it was a Gary Goddard show. Actually, it may be one of the reasons I got to read for the part. I came in and re-choreographed everybody and retrained everybody for the Conan Sword Spectacular. And Bob was, one of the wizards, who tells the story. And anyway, it was a whole lot of fun. Let me see who else is. Robert Duncan McNeill. He was Lieutenant Paris on Star Trek Voyager. I came in and did Maj Kulla for like 5 episodes of that, and then he went on to do Chuck. He
was one of the main producers of that too. Yeah,
right. Yeah, he's doing Resident Alien now, or I don't know if the show's still on.
Yeah, it's still right. Yeah, I think it's still got one more season, or they just wrapped it up. I can't remember which.
And Billy Barty, I used to do a lot of theater. I started in Shakespeare at the Old Globe in San Diego. I played Iago twice, and I used to mount shows down at the Amundsen when they did that. I did. I got my equity card from doing Cyrano with Richard Chamberlain, and I did choreograph. That was my first big piece of choreography. They'd seen me do Edgar and King Lear at the Globe, and then the next year I did the Scottish play with Chuck Heston and Vanessa Redgrave, which was a hoot. Awesome. But there was I used to do a lot of stuff for the Mark Taper and things. I found that 53 years as a working professional, diversity is the secret to longevity. You got to have more than one trick if you want to be a pony that lasts. But I got to work with Billy Barty on a play down there. I staged action for LA Opera for 20 years, which was another adventure. Big hoot and a half with Placido Domingo and a bunch of different things. But, so I'd worked with Billy and different people. It was a terrific cast. It was a pleasure working with all of them.
Well, one of the things that we do on these Couch Potato Theaters, we like to touch on fights And of course, we had several in this one here, and we wanted to pick your brain on maybe one of your favorite fights that you maybe either choreographed or that you performed yourself.
In this film or in other
Yes,
things?
in this film, yes.
Okay, well, then it's going to be well, the fight, I waited a long time for this, and we put that together. It's just we had no time to there was no advance there was no advance rehearsal. We just basically, I reminded of some things, and then we shot it, and the coordinator said, okay, we're going to catch Sorod, and then we're going to yank this guy through, put him on a ratchet and get shot and pull the troop through there. And that was fun. And the thing at the end with for Doubling Frank, again, I had a really nice fight scene that was impossible to do with that staff with that headgear, so we had to quickly simplify that, and they had come together and did this crash. And then like I said, the producers were ready to wrap the film because they'd run out of money. And Gary got us that extra half a day, so we were able to once again, Dolph and I, just kind of on the spot put together, responding to each other's energy. If you do this, I'll do that. If you do that, I'll do this. And which in some ways is one of the my favorite ways to work. But it's also I also like to be able to have a little time and put a little story, because to me, if action should drive story and reveal character. And I was lucky to have someone of Dolph's intelligence and physicality, so that we could work like that. Because if he didn't have those abilities, we wouldn't have been able to overcome the fact that we had time.
Yeah. One of the things that we also like. Oh, Kyle, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, just from hearing Anthony tell the stories he's already told, and I'm sure we'll have more before the show's over. He definitely, from what we've learned, Kevin, as we've been doing this whole thing, he definitely got the full Canon Films experience.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wrap it up. We're out of money.
Well, one of the things we like to have fun with here on Couch Potato Theater is the weapons that are used. Your favorite weapon in the film or inanimate object used as a weapon. And obviously we have He-Man's sword. That's a big deal. But I want to talk about, I was looking closely at your costume here, Anthony. Obviously, you have your sword, you have used a dagger in a scene, obviously used the whip, but I've seen a bunch of other bladed items on your waist. Your shoulder pads can be used as a weapon as well. I was wondering if you can kind of go in a little bit more on the actual weapons that Blade was carrying, because it looked like it was quite a bit.
Well, yeah, that added to the weight, definitely. I just had my second knee replacement about 7 weeks ago, and it's going great. I'm happy to say, and I'm back to 2 stable knees, but I'm sure this production didn't help. The swords were fun, figuring out a way to balance the sword and use 2 swords together and draw them and put them away, with a little bit of, character and imagination. The dagger, as it happened, because, I had these things that would shoot out of my wrist, which we did in the into the door in the gymnasium scene. But when we come in and burst into the apartment and put the collar on Robert Duncan McNeill, we had him down there on the ground, and Gary said, "I want you to scare him a little bit." That was one of the few pieces of direction I ever got from Gary. So Evelyn's here and I'm right here, and Robert's in the middle. And I will never cheap shot another actor, but I can do this and I can keep him safe. And I pulled my dagger, and it was a practical Gerber dagger, and it was sharp. And I just buried it into the table next to his head, sufficiently away to where but he didn't know I was going to do that.
His reaction looks real, though.
Oh, yeah. But, and again, it was like, I will never endanger another actor. We'll find a way to make it look as dangerous as possible, but still figure out ways to keep it acceptably safe. There's always a risk, but that was just kind of fun. I'm kind of going, yeah, I know what to do, because I've got the knife. I just flipped it around and then buried it right next to his head.
Nice. The one other thing,
did I do good?
the one thing we like to ask on these shows too is if you were a non-speaking extra
just
on
blow
set,
out the mics.
What's that? Can you hear us? Okay.
I think he just froze up.
There we go. You're back.
All right, great. One of the things we like to ask, and I'm going to point this directly at Kyle and Lee here, is if you were a non-speaking extra on set, what scene would you like to be in? Let's start with you, Lee.
I'd like to be, just in the walking down the street and suddenly here comes Jabba's sail barge. I mean, the mothership there. That would be. Hey, just fun to be on set.
Was that Skeletor's chariot, I guess, is what that was? Maybe, yeah. Definitely, yeah. Kyle, what about you? What scene would you like to be in there?
I'd have to be in the downtown battle scene somehow. I want to be an extra in that and enjoy that and just be part of that whole battle, because that battle was so much fun. I mean, you had the classic woman at arms line during that battle.
Yes.
So that and just to be able to watch that being filmed and be an extra as part of that would have been so much fun.
Yeah, the downtown Whittier scene would have been really cool. Anthony, I wanted to ask you, what was your experience working with the extras in this one? Obviously, a lot of them had to be stuntmen as well, but obviously there was a bunch of extras too.
All very good. A lot of the guys were. Walter Scott is very, very much a cowboy, and he had a lot of guys. Some of the stunt team, were guys who would rope with him. They're very, very good stuntmen, but their idea of their hobby, would be roping. Professional roping. So there was one guy on set who kept roping everybody, and his two brothers were on set and did a terrific job. John Clay Scott and Ben Scott. One fellow said, "You're very good with a sword. I have the sword at home. I want to give it to you." And he gave me this wooden bokto. I still use it. I teach. I'm a 4th degree black belt in Shinkendo, Japanese sword, and I still use that. And it is one of the. It was just very nice to have somebody think enough of what they saw me doing to want to present me with something, and that's still part of my my training and my life. Well, so that's very cool.
It's funny that you have that from the set, because the final main category that we have here is a fun one that we do. It's called, as an extra, you're friends with the on-set prop master. They say you can take one thing home from the set. What prop are you taking? I'm going to go first, Anthony. I'm sorry, but I'm taking your headgear and I'm taking your eye patch. Maybe not off you directly. I'm going to wait till you go to sleep, but then I'll take that. But that is one of the coolest things on the set. That's what I would take.
You didn't have to wear it. I would get very sweaty, as you might imagine. And this is held on with glue, so it's like, hey, you better put some more glue on Blade. All right, well, we're going in for you. Blade's in this scene. Get the headgear on him, glue him up. I'm glad I didn't have any hair.
Lee, what would you take home from the set? What prop?
Oh, blatantly the Buick Slayer.
What's that?
I would take the Buick Slayer, Dolph Lundgren's sword. I've got a few inches on Dolph. I've got a few pounds on Dolph, and I love a big, heavy weapon. The armorer that I work with, when I bring him stuff to get blunted, he's like, "Is this for normal people or is this for you?" And if it's for normal people, he'll usually take the weight off. If it's for me, he'll try to keep it heavy. And so, I would love to just try that thing someday. So,
what about you, Kyle?
Working with the heavy weapons? Did you say Tony Swatton?
Oh no, I'm working with Dave Schneider out of Northern Edge Armory.
Ah, okay.
But anytime I get something new, like if I see something kind of crazy that has good steel, I'll take it straight to him. He's got a great blunting process. Really fair prices. Anybody out there looking for it? But just had a bunch of Damascus kind of ground down, rolled the edges so that they're a little bit easier to work with safely. And there was 5 of them, and one of them he kept just my weight because normal people, like a normal, like I like a little heft. So it was pretty fun. He does that for me, and great guy.
Excellent.
Kyle, what are you taking from the Masters Universe set, if you could?
There's so many cool things, but I think if you want the one to put on your mantle that's going to have people walk in, they're going to recognize it, and you're going to have the conversation about it, it's the Cosmic Key.
The Cosmic Key.
I think that is, I mean, as great as everything else is, I think that is probably the most identifiable piece of prop from this set for most people who've seen this movie. Now, if you can get one that actually plays the music with it and everything, even more the better. But it's unique in design. I think it's, like I said, it's the one thing a lot of people recognize from this set, and I think it would be a great thing to have as a conversation piece up on a mantle or something along.
You better be wearing your pervy raincoat if you're going to try to.
That's true too.
Anthony, is there something that if you could go back in time and collect as a memento off the set of this movie that you wish you still had, you could have kept?
Well, I actually got to keep my swords. And
Nice.
and I had them for a number of years. I have a lot of bladed weapons, as you might imagine. It's if there's a rumor that Wyatt Earp, was never more than 2 steps away from a gun that he would keep secreted somewhere. Well, in my house, I've often had people say, "Boy, if anybody came in here as a burglar, they'd probably just turn right around and walk away."
I can confirm this.
And I have even more sense then. But I ended up donating one to Highlander for a charity, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, another collector bought the second sword. And then I got, and then he said, is this the matching sword? Because they had sold it to somebody who'd used it in some, funky, how should we call them? Well, they could have been Canon films because I just sort of went, yeah, that's those are the 2 swords. So I don't have the 2 swords now, but I think they found a good home.
Well, before we wrap this up, we got to get everyone's thoughts on. First of all, Anthony, have you seen the remake?
I have.
Okay, good. Let's go ahead and let's get into that.
Now, Kevin, we are starting a trend here with Anthony because the last time we had him on, we did Roadhouse, and it was right after the Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal had come out.
This is true. Well, this is where we talk about the sequels, prequels, reboots, and remakes. And of course, we just recently had Masters of the Universe 2026 hit theaters, and it has recently now hit Amazon. So if you have Amazon, you can now stream it and watch it. Director is Travis Knight, who's known for Kubo and the Two Strings, Bumblebee. He has a $6 billion man that's coming up. As Adam / He-Man, we have Nicholas Galitzin. Tila is Camila Mendez. Duncan's played by Idris Elba. Jared Leto plays Skeletor. Alison Brie plays Evil Lynn. And Morena Baccarin plays the Sorceress. Now, let's get your thoughts first, Anthony. What were your thoughts of the reboot? Be honest. That's what we want you here.
Well, I prefer the original. One of the things that Gary had lamented, he didn't have the money or the budget, and they didn't have the technology for him to be able to create Eternia and to have the Battle Cat, and he ended up having Gwildor as opposed to the floating character. And I think it was a creative decision, and he did it on Earth, and I think he did a terrific job with the assets that he had to work with. And watching the new one, there's an awful lot of it that I kept going, how much of this is being done in front of a green screen and is being done in CGI or AI or whatever the hell they're using now? But I didn't find the Eternia they created that compelling. So there was that aspect of it. The Evil Lynn character, when she made her appearance, I kind of, well, that's different and quirky. And I kind of wish they'd embraced it even more, because they kind of had her being but there wasn't any seductress to that quality, to that character, like, Meg Foster had going on. And there's something going on between her and Skeletor, but you're not sure what. And then the fact that she's kind of quirky and goofy in an off-center way. It was like, yeah, you could have done more of that. That would have been cool. They didn't give Beastman much to do. They had Karg, and again, Karg didn't have anything to do. Idris, I'd had a lot of people kind of go, well, there's Blade's not dead. I said, yeah, I'd love to come back as Blade, or old Blade, or anything, or or a lot of people said, make a great Man at Arms. So yes, I would. But they did it in I think they did it in England, didn't they? Yeah, they didn't do it here. So none of that was ever an opportunity. I thought the actor playing He-Man, he was very compelling. I liked him. I thought he did a terrific job. It's just I like our original movie. I identify more with the characters and the stakes than the remake. I thought they had a lot of candy to play with, but they didn't necessarily, other than He-Man having a bit of a journey, to find himself. Everybody else was sort of, we can paste into the story,
Gotcha.
I do have a question.
Who wrote this thing?
Go ahead, Kyle. What?
Well, I do have a question that's very important since I have both the host of Blood of Kings here and Anthony here, because there is a severe Highlander moment in Masters of the Universe. And I just have to know how each of you felt when that moment arrived, when you hear Queen's Princes of the Universe start playing in Masters of the Universe. And now, I do know Brian May did collaborate on some of the score for this movie as well. So I am sure it was done with Brian May's blessing. But I thought instantly of all of you guys, anybody associated with Highlander, and what they were feeling when that moment came up on the screen. So yeah. I want to hear from all three of you. But Anthony, you're our guest here. What was that like for you when that moment arrived in the film?
I was very surprised. And, I'm going to be calling Davis Panzer, and kind of going, really? Queen? So, but yeah, it's obvious, it's a great song, but yeah, we could have used more of it an earlier, I guess, again, it was, my Mary commented very much on this is really 80s music. And it really was, and that's not necessarily a compliment.
Lee, what are your Kyle's question? What'd you think, and what'd you think of this movie?
Oh, I absolutely loved the needle drop on Princes of the Universe. And when you think about it, it actually is a more appropriate song for Masters of the Universe than Highlander, even though it's an amazing song. Like, there's more universe in He-Man. I thought it was fun. I thought, them dropping the name on Highlander at the beginning, I'm like, I don't think that's a reference that cops are going to make. It depends on where they're at, but we're the fandom. We're a niche fandom. We're not like a daily mention kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was, a lot of fun. It actually... I kept on thinking in the speeder bike scene, we'll just call it that it reminded me a lot of Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
yes, Mary thought that too. She said,
that's a good point. Yeah,
Flash Gordon score. Yeah.
I personally liked that it was a Prince Adam story. Obviously, I love the original, but that was He-Man. There was no real Adam there. Right. I like that it was Adam. And as an Alison Brie fan, I do very much agree with you, Anthony. The gravitas that Meg Foster brought to it, and then later on Lena Headey in the animated series, which I really did enjoy. Playing Evelyn as Annie Edison from Community was an odd choice.
Well, and it's like, if you're going to go do that, lean into it more.
There was one detail that I thought was amazing, is that they made a lot of the set look like the toys.
Yeah.
there was one point where they're leaning on the railing, and it looked like the crappy orange plastic railing that you had on the inside of like Snake Mountain and Castle Grayskull. And I'm like, oh, yeah, they got that like that little tactile sense. But the downside is, like, that is, a 49-year-old man's nostalgia. That's not necessarily the kids' nostalgia. And I think they didn't make it for the kids. They made it for all of us and our dorky friends.
I thought overall it was pretty fun. I did, like Anthony was mentioning, like there was one of the things that makes the 87 one fun is all of the practical effects. And I really miss that in today's age of cinema, and which is why 80s and early 90s cinema is some of my favorite because of that. But overall, I thought the story was fun. I love Nicholas Galitzine. I think that's how you say his last name. I thought he was good. I like how he starts off, he escapes to Earth.
Why don't girls like me?
Yeah, it was nice to see Dolph Lundgren have his cameo in the gym. I thought that was cool as well. And I know they highlighted a few more of the He-Man characters in this one, which I thought was cool. And obviously the soundtrack was fun. I thought it was fun, but I still like the original just because it's just got a certain campiness to it. And I just love the overall look of it as well. So yeah. Kyle. Kyle.
I agree. One thing I said to Mary says, so if Idris is if Man at Arms is drinking himself into a stupor on a regular basis, and he's in a dungeon, where the hell is he getting the liquor?
Well, they always find a way in jail. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I shouldn't be distracted. I should be caught up in your story. I shouldn't be asking dumb questions.
Maybe that was just the Eternian drunk tank. He was in there for the weekend.
No, he was.
I don't think so. With what his daughter had said, and blah blah, and father, and Father, I'm so ashamed. So yeah. Again, I thought the actor playing He-Man did a terrific job. But there were the visual elements and the musical elements didn't draw me in as much as I think we were able to achieve in the 87 version.
Kyle?
Well, so I went into this movie, I wasn't sure what to expect because I kind of had a feeling going in that Travis Knight, who I'm going to say this, if you have something 80s toy line to make, you might want to hire Travis Knight because he's very good at capturing the spirit of that. He was phenomenal with Bumblebee. I think he did a good job of capturing what was the animated He-Man. And I think that's one of the big differences between this version and the 87 version is I feel like the 87 version actually dealt with more of what the Mattel storyline initially was for He-Man, which was a little bit darker and had a little bit more of an edge to it, where Travis Knight was trying to really capture the spirit of the animated show more so than the actual spirit of the toys. And I think he did a good job with it. I think for the most part, the cast was interesting. The young guy who plays He-Man was outstanding, and a lot of love to Camille Mendez. I thought she was phenomenal as Tila in this as well. I thought she was going to get pretty good energy. I think Idris just got on set and they just told him, do whatever you want, Idris. You're in this movie. Have fun, go crazy, whatever. Because that's really what it felt like. It's like they just gave him carte blanche.
Well, I thought like they didn't give him much to do.
Well, yeah. I think Idris was kind of there, maybe just for the paycheck, but not. And have a little fun. But the other thing with it is, I agree with you, Kevin. It's so heavily special affected, but I don't think you can pull off if you're trying to do He-Man proper. And again, because of the fantastical nature of He-Man, both on a fantasy side and a science fiction side, I think even now, without using those technologies, it's very hard to get to. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more practical effects.
I enjoyed Frank Langella's Skeletor much more than Jared Leto's. Not the least of which is because Jared Leto was all, mask and glowy eyes and stuff like that. You didn't really see the how do you say that? The man beneath the mask. That
you could see reaction. You could see reaction in Frank's mask. The prosthetic that he had was very good.
That's still one of the best prosthetics of the 80s.
They were humanized in this monster's face. And you're kind of going, okay, there's a humanity here that there didn't seem to be with, what they gave Jared Leto to work with.
But I just want to say one other thing. I think what the other thing was with this was they had fun with it. They knew what they were making. I think Amazon is backing this no matter what, because I think they're invested into the property. I know this movie did not do great at the box office, but I think we're going to get a sequel because I think Amazon's invested into it, and it's Amazon. What else are they going to do with all that money?
Oh, they're spending. Amazon is spending it on the Highlander reboot, which finished filming. So we're going to see what we get from that. So, out of curiosity, Anthony, I got to ask you since I got you here, your thoughts on the Highlander reboot. What are you thinking? Are you interested in seeing it? What are you hearing about it?
Oh, I'll see it. I won't rush out to the. It's like I didn't rush out to the. First off, I have to come down the mountain, and I'm very picky what I come off the mountain for. But I didn't rush out to the theaters to see the new. And sure enough, it showed up, where I could stream it, relatively quickly. But, I'd sort of, tried to drop rather pointed hints, to love to be a part of this if there's, any opportunity. Alas, I felt the same way about Highlander. Apparently, Chad Stahelski really liked the Duende episode and the Rapier and Dagger work that was in that. But I'm kind of going, well, if you liked it, I know the guy who.
I know somebody.
Again, but then I'm kind of going. What I'm hoping for is that they did an origin story, and of course, Henry Cavill, he has the Witcher stuff, so he has a lot of broadsword training, and the original, you didn't get the dragon katana until you got to that backstory of him being shipwrecked on Japan and all of that. So I'm hoping that it'll do well, because I like the movie to be good. And that perhaps they will turn into another John Wick franchise. Maybe I'll get to come play.
That would be great. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been Couch Potato Theater Masters Universe with our very special guest and co-star of the film, Mr. Anthony DeLongis. We'll get our final thoughts here. We've, of course, been celebrating canon films here, and, of course, we saved the best for last. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Anthony, give me your final thoughts. And first, I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing us your time and your memories.
Sorry, Lee, was that to you? I had a breakup.
That was to you, Anthony. I wanted to get your final thoughts.
One small thing, please, fans of all of this, come visit my website, which is mylastname.com, www.delongis.com. Also, if you're interested in the thing that I teach and train, all of my instructionals in sword and whip and knife throwing, etc., are on buymeacoffee.com /Anthony DeLongis. So you can find all of that stuff there. And it's I started doing those in 1999 and gone through VHS and then DVDs, but nobody has cup holders in their computers anymore, and I was worried about it being lost. But we managed to digitize it, so it's available to be downloaded, and it's information that I'm very proud of, and I think people would find. I try to create it so it's a step-by-step progression to be able to train yourself to confident, professional level excellence in whatever the discipline is. So please enjoy.
That's great. And if you ever get a chance to visit Rancho Indalo, please hit up Anthony. It's a beautiful place, and you'll feel safe there, and you'll feel at home. And also, too, it's a working ranch. You might be put back to work. You might be put to work. So feel free to remember that.
We like people to help us, feed the horses, and it keeps people grounded. But it's sort of like, well, you don't have to help, but the lessons don't start until the chores are done. So,
Exactly. Lee, how can we reach out to you, sir?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Lee Fillingses or at The Way of the Way, and the Fight Monkeys, my stunt team. Nice. I'd also definitely like to double down on Anthony's website and all of his instructional videos. I have a now 27-year career that started with buying the VHS, the DeLongis Method, broadsword for stage and screen. I bought that after my very first job as a fight choreographer and realized I should know more things. And so I bought that, and it's kept a couple generations of actors safe on set. It's very good quality training. I've got a whole bunch of the stuff that he does about with the Destreza with Maestro Martinez is absolutely groundbreaking. Nobody really has there's no other good Destreza training out there on video. So
that's why I produced that, because I wanted the knowledge. So I've got the Maestro Martinez in La Verdadera Destreza, and then we also did La Scherma Italiana, and then with Maestro Gennaro Costa Martinez, we have the French small sword. So that is the best historically accurate material out there.
True story. I was translating the Diderot and D'Alembert fencing manual, and she beat me to publication by 2 months.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was my introduction to her. So I reached out, told her the story. We had a good laugh about it. But yeah, definitely some amazing stuff. And Eagle Eye viewers will actually notice a young Dave Baker from Forged in Fire in some of those.
Oh yes, Dave. Yeah, we've been friends for about 30 years.
Pre-mustache too. It's pretty.
I was very pleased. Bob Anderson saw that and gave me a very nice. He said, "I always knew it could be like this. Would you like to work on one of these together?" And I said, "Yes, I would love to." Alas, he got sick and passed before we had that opportunity. But
wow.
Well, you can join Lee. He's my co-host for Bloody Kings Highlander podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. My name is Kevin. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix here on the Fandom Podcast Network, and of course on all social media. Kyle, how can we reach out to you, sir?
Of course, you can find me all over the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find me on social media on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days, and Blue Sky at AKyleW, and Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. And Anthony, I just got to give you a quick shout out because I just watched another movie of yours from a little bit before Masters of the Universe, but I promise you it had no practical effects in it because it was Star Chaser: The Legend of Orin, where you provided the voice.
That was the first 3D animated feature. And I got to come in and do that. And I also did the Chipmunk Adventure. I was Klaus, the evil diamond smuggler. Yeah. But, yeah. Lee, I would love to see your translation. So hopefully at some point we'll get that.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on. This meant the world to us, and we really appreciate your time.
It's great. Thanks, fellas. Stay in touch.
All right, guys, this is, of course, the Fandom Podcast Network and Couch Potato Theater. And thank you guys for joining us here for Masters of the Universe with our very special guest, Anthony DeLongis. And until next time, guys, we will see you on the couch. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Good journey.